It is. So Ross Merriam on your right, going to play against Feline Longmore on the left. Don't forget, after this game, we'll do our first of 3 Star City Games premium giveaways. This one will be for 3 months. We'll ask the question after this game. We'll give it away at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round. But we are underway here in our elimination rounds. Death Right Shaman begins things for Merriam.
Now, the one edge that Feline does have in this matchup is she has access to Force of Will. That might buy her a full turn, but I think Goldfish to Goldfish, Ross has an edge.
Preordained is going to put 2 cards to the bottom. One going to go to the grip for Longmore. Going to pass the turn back over to Merriam, who will take a draw. We'll see if he has a fetch land to turn on that Death Right Shaman or not. Again, Elves has the ability to go off on turn 3, but Forcible has the ability to break that up. Merriam going to add some mana here with the Bayou. What are we going to see from Ross? This is going to be a Birchlore Ranger.
I believe you see a glimpse in Ross's hand. I believe he wants to have some amount of setup this turn and then just try to go for glimpse the following turn.
Well, there's a Cradle. This is a glimpse, so it looks like he's going to have a whole bunch of fun with the green mana floating.
He might be going for it right now.
I like this. This is a nice test spell to have. See if Longmore has a Forcible, because trust me, this is Forcible. And it looks like the answer is yes, as she does take a look at the hand. It's got to be a little scary. So Glimpse is going to resolve. There's a Heritage Druid. That's 3 elves. This will be a trigger. Are we going to counter that one?
It appears that Feline does have Force of Will in hand.
Yep. And that's going to remove a Time Spiral. So the answer is yes. Cannot let Heritage Druid get going. Now, even though that's the case, we'll see if Merriam has another 1 mana elf to play. Looks like the answer is yes. So he'll be able to cantrip again. It's a Death Right Shaman.
And Feline rolling the dice here that Ross did not have a lot of setup here.
Yeah, things could have gotten out of control that turn. If no Forcible, all Longmore can do is play a land, pass the turn back over to Merriam, who will draw cards. Another copy of Gaia's Cradle. He gets to go really crazy now.
And he has Natural Order in hand. So I believe this is basically a lethal base.
This could be a turn 3.
Yeah.
This could very, very, very easily be a turn 3. Merriam looks like he's going to begin things with a Queer Ranger. That's perfect Natural Order fodder, simply because that one can't attack. So if you do add the mana with the Cradle, you play another Cradle, which he's going to do. That's a whole bunch more. Death Right is going to remove that. This is a Zenith for a bunch. Looking to try to resolve this. That is a Brainstorm in response. It looks like Longmore is looking for a counterspell. Take a look at all these cards. Going to put 2 back. Is there a Flusterstorm or a Force? The answer is no. Merriam's going to go digging through his deck now. It's time for Craterhoof.
And he's doing all this with Natural Order still left over.
Yep. And there is Craterhoof Behemoth. The trigger's going to come and everything's going to get +5/+5. So the hoof is going to be a 10. And you see Ross is going to say, untap my Death Right Shaman with the Queer Ranger, attack you for a whole bunch.
Yeah, the Craterhoof Behemoth trigger alone is lethal here, as it's 5 times 4 is 20. Not to mention the points of power the creatures already have in play, and just like that, onto a sideboard game.
That's an easy turn 3 right there. Ross Merriam does win game number 1 here. Our Standard Open champion is looking to go back-to-back, and you can see a lot of people behind him rooting for him here. As we're going to bring it back to the booth, we'll analyze the sideboards in just a moment. Patrick, you want to do the rules?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then I will fire away the question. 3 months of premium on the way.
All right, Cedric over here is going to ask you a question. You're going to tweet your answer at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct responses, one will be selected at random for 3 free months of Star City Games Premium. Don't worry about answering first. Just answer correctly. We select out of the entire pool of random answers, and remember that this giveaway is done at the sole discretion of StarCityGames.com, and Twitch is in no way affiliated with this giveaway.
We're going to talk about Ross Merriam. He's kind of the headliner here in the top 8, oddly enough, stealing it away from Chris Van Meter somehow. Ross did win the Standard Open a little bit earlier today after a marathon affair, beating Jim Davis, then beating Mono Red in the finals. The question is, what did he win the Standard Open with? And if you can name the deck that he did that with, hashtag SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live, and again, we will announce the winner at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round. We're going to head back down to the match. We'll take a look at the sideboards right now. Also, when we do have any updates for you guys, we'll certainly let you know between our other 3 matches. But for now, we turn our attention here towards the Longmore sideboard. You see 4 Counterbalance 2 Wipe Away and a whole bunch of bullets for Cunning Wish.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean she's not bringing in some of these bullets. For example, I wouldn't be surprised if she brought in either the Snap or one of the Wipe-Aways to give her a Merchant Scroll target to get Galactique off the table.
Sure.
So it's not necessarily all Wish targets here. I think that the counterbalances are going to come in with her on the play. Ross's deck, of course, chock full of 1-mana spells, including some of his combo pieces like Glimpse. Other than that, there's not really that much room for Feline to make that many changes to the deck, as again, it's all engine. and so many of these slots are devoted to be Cunning Wish targets.
On Merriam's side of the board, you do see a couple of one-ofs there for Green Sun Zenith targets. Pride Mage, Ooze, you did mention Gaddock Teague, a couple of Natural Order targets, and Progenitus and Worldspine Worm. You see the discard spells there of Cabal Therapy and Thoughtseize, and of course 3 copies of Abrupt Decay. You mentioned Gaddock Teague right at the top.
That's a haymaker in this matchup, and it's totally incidental. I mean, this is just a bullet Ross has access to some percentage of the time through Green Sun Zenith. And he can also randomly draw it, but he certainly doesn't need it to win the game. The additional discard spells here are excellent as well. I'm curious to see if Ross has enough respect for Counterbalance to bring in the Abrupt Decays. Now, he's bringing in so many good cards in Thoughtseize, Cabal Therapy, and Galactic are all superstars in this matchup. I don't know if he can necessarily afford to bring in 10 cards, so that's going to be a big question.
Again, when we do have updates on the Chris Vanameter versus Jason Ellis at Sneak and Show versus Rug, Jared Betcher playing 4-color Delver against David Shields playing Death and Taxes, and Jerry Me playing Bug Delver against Robert Sullivan playing Death and Taxes. We will certainly let you guys know. Andrew Shrout is doing the write-up for Vanameter Ellis. I know there are a lot of people who are interested in that match. We had to choose between the Beard Saga or the player going back-to-back, which is not a very easy choice.
Yeah, and Feline has a resume all of her own,
certainly,
too. You know, travels a lot for the Open Series, a former Legacy champion with this same deck. And so, and that's not even talk about Dave Shields and Jared Betcher on the other side of the bracket. Just a loaded top 8.
It's going to be fun to watch these events unfold and see who's going to take the title with them. And it's our last Legacy Open of Season 2 before we head to the Invitational next weekend. Really, really fun stuff to watch. But again, the attention here is on the player on the right, Ross Merriam, as he sideboards here. Will he be able to go back-to-back?
It's a huge accomplishment.
It is very hard to do. The last time we got close, again, Orlando, week 2 of this year, Tyler Wilkerson winning with Mono Blue Devotion and Standard, losing in the top 4 with Mono Blue Omnitel in Legacy. Got very, very close. I still think things here are favored for Merriam. I think that, again, Gaddock Teague, I actually forgot about that when we were analyzing off air how huge that card is in this matchup.
That's not a card. Feline can't win the game basically without that card in play.
Yeah.
So
it's too hard.
And again, that's just totally supplemental to all the other stuff Ross is going on. His engine's pretty close to a turn faster. He has 6 discard spells to bring in, and Feline, again, cannot make significant improvements to the deck. She does have the possibility of just stealing a game outright with Counterbalance. If she opens on Sensei's Divine top into Counterbalance, Ross is going to have some percentage of his hands that are really going to struggle to function against that. But
the key here is don't dilute the deck too much.
Yes.
And that's a real concern here for Merriam. You have a lot of attractive options in your sideboard between Thoughtseize, Cabal Therapy. You can argue Abrupt Decay because of Counterbalance on the other side of the table, as well as that Gaddock Teague, heck, even that Kosali Pride Mage as well. So you don't want to dilute your deck too much because you saw what he did in game 1. That's kind of the goal every game.
It's just engine.
Yeah.
And especially when you're fighting against a deck with Force of Will, sometimes you need the second critical piece to go off. Ross that game had he had both Glimpse and Natural Order and Green Sun Zenith, so he had 3 different ways to try to win the game. Some of those games he's going to need the second copy, and you can only dilute your deck so much if you want to be able to beat Force of Will.
Well, game number 2 will be underway here shortly for everybody at home. You can probably see behind Feline, Brian Brondwin, a curious observer, watching Chris Vanameter do battle against Jason Ellis.
BBD just waiting for his ride home.
Pretty much, yeah. Chris, would you just lose already? We have to work tomorrow.
I don't know if BBD is rooting for Chris to lose, but he may be closer to neutral than he would be under normal circumstances. Because Rhode Island to Roanoke is not a short drive.
Yeah, but that's actually just the best. That's part of the reason I love Chris and Brian. It's just, they even know, too. They're like, it is completely unreasonable for us to do this. We'll see you guys there. Yep.
That was
every time.
Yep. That was the revelation I had. I drove from New Jersey to Grand Prix Tampa in 2001, 2002, which was 20 hours. And that's explained to me, and I have a conception of what 20 hours in the car is, and so I agreed to do it because I'm road tripping with friends and it sounds fun, go to a Grand Prix. The problem is it's the drive back.
I was hoping you were going to say it. The drive there is great every time.
Yep.
You guys are excited, man. We're going to go play Magic. Let's talk about our decks for 6 hours. Let's sleep for 6 more. Okay, we're 8 hours away still. Let's get some food, some gas, listen to some music. This could be fun.
Yeah, but I got a speeding ticket in Virginia and then hit a car in Florida, and then couldn't play in the trial because I got there late. Then went 0-3 in the Grand Prix. Then there were some incidents we can't really get into it was a bad trip. The short version of this, it was a really bad trip. So for all of you out there that are considering these long road trips, it is sweet, but I caution you, factor in the drive home.
Young Patrick, you sound like you should have a book written about this trip alone.
Oh, old Patrick still deals. He's just a little more discreet now, you know? Back then, there was no accounting for anything.
What year? What was this, like 2000?
2001. It was the Grand Prix that Sol Malka won. I believe it was Odyssey Limited.
Okay.
So that era.
Boy, is that a long time ago. I
Yep.
tell you what.
Yep.
Well, that is magic right there. That is a lot of fun. Both players taking a look at their openers. Look like Longmore is happy. The question is Merriam? We're going to find out.
And Ross may have to be a little more strict with the hands he keeps because his deck is somewhat diluted with the sideboard cards he's brought in.
Yeah.
He is no longer pure engine.
The question is, how diluted is he? Is Longmore's just going to play an island, pass the turn back, no can tripping? Now, again, we have seen Merriam use this sideboard to great effect. I remember the match he played against Adam Prozac in an invitational that he top-8'd 2 years ago, where Prozac was playing Storm, Merriam was playing Elves, and we all about pushed Prozac over to the semifinals. Why even bother playing the match?
Right.
There's no way that Ross can win, and Ross was able to cobble together 3 wins. Adam only got 1, and he's like, some of the discards, some of the mulligans for Adam, things just did not come together for him. So we could see that here on the other side of things. Things might not come together for Merriam, and Longmore be able to steal one.
And again, Ross, there's a lot of pressure on him to go off quickly. He can't mess around here because he can't disrupt Feline once Feline's going off. All of his play is to the board. He has discard spells, he has Gaddock Teague, but once Feline resolves the card Time Spiral, she can do whatever she wants at her leisure.
Absolutely.
She has no fear about anything Ross can present at that point.
Yep. Got 4 turns, basically, to get to work here. You can extend those 4 turns, of course, with some help from some discard spells and some disruption, but essentially 4 turns to get the job done for Merriam. Gonna, looks like, play Dryad Arbor here, potentially. That is true. And just attack for 1. This doesn't look good.
This is a slightly slower draw than we saw in the first game.
You are being very nice about it.
And
Not really doing very much here. A lot more just an island and a pass. You have to imagine there's some strength there.
well, she has, I saw a hand that contained Force of Will, High Tide, an Island, and Time Spiral.
That's a good hand. This is a Heritage Druid. Merriam gonna play a Cradle. That Cradle's gonna tap for 3 right now. 2 Dryad Arbors. That is natural order. Sacrifice this. I can't imagine this is resolving. We'll see though.
Yeah, this has the ability to get Gaddock Teague. So there's some defense here.
Flusterstorm. Pay 2. Can't. Attack for 1. Certainly can. Longmore down to 18.
Another lump.
Longmore gonna play an island. Is it go time potentially? Gonna wait 1 more turn, it looks like. Not sure if there's a Tie Spiral over there just yet. Merriam gonna draw a card. It's a copy of Wirewood Symbiote. Looks like Ross may play that now. We'll see. He's still crafting.
And Ross has Craterhoof Behemoth in hand. And don't underestimate what the Dryad Arbors are adding to all this, both in terms of creatures in play for Graida's Cradle and for a potential Craterhoof Behemoth kill.
Yep.
His board is a little bit more advanced than it would appear.
I'm gonna sacrifice this Misty Rainforest. Gonna go searching out a land. It is a copy of Savannah. That'll be the white mana necessary to cast a Gaddock Teague if he has one. He's gonna add some mana to the mana pool, sacrifice. This is a natural order with the question of may I?
So how much is Craterhoof here? It's 3, 9, 11, 12, 17. Still not quite lethal.
Not quite enough just yet. Force of Will Moving Brainstorm says no. Dryad Arbors come in yet again. Longmore down to 15. This is a Cunning Wish. It might be time for Fireworks. That's a High Tide. Longmore gonna untap. Take a draw.
And she may have felt that she had the luxury with that Force of Will to set up a really powerful hand, which Cunning Wishing for the second High Tide really allows her to do.
It's go time now. That's High Tide, High Tide. That's Time Spiral. It is certainly go time now.
And so each of these islands now taps for 3 mana.
Yep.
So she effectively has 12 mana afforded to her. She's going to draw 7 cards. And again, Ross with no way on Feline's turn to interact. All of his interaction is either getting Gaddock Teague into play or discard spells or killing Feline outright.
So there's 1 blue mana floating, and there have been 3 spells cast, 2 High Tides, and a Time Spiral. And folks, if you've never seen this before, best of luck keeping up, because I'm going to try. She is very quick at this.
Yes. Now, fortunately for us in the booth and you watching at home, Feline is usually very good about dividing her hand into relevant and non-relevant actions.
That is correct.
Makes it a little easier to follow.
Again, 2 High Tides have been cast, so Islands will tap for 3 blue. 3 spells have been cast in case she tries to go the Brain Freeze route, but when going off, there'll be plenty of spells cast there. And then 1 blue mana is remaining floating from the Time Spiral. Now there is none, so that die will go away. Ross is going to try to keep track with a single die. I wish you the best of luck. Going to spin the top right now. 2 blue floating.
I believe Feline's Spiral might have been very land heavy, so she may need some help here.
Gonna draw a card with the top. There's 1 blue floating. Islands will tap for 4 now. There's a Candelabra. No mana floating. Again, Islands will tap for 4. Gonna search out 9 with the Flooded Strand.
So if Feline fizzles from this position, it is not going to be due to lack of mana.
That is certainly true.
It is pretty close to unlimited here.
So Ross gonna make sure the game state is correct. No mana floating. You got a number of spells there. Ross wants to make sure that everything is kosher. Because this gentleman would like to win this tournament.
Yes.
Believe you me.
And now he's just at the mercy of the cards that come off of Feline's deck.
So there's the deck. This is 16 blue. 16 minus 6 is 10. Blue mana floating. So the spiral wasn't great, but another spiral can make things better.
Yeah.
So there's 10 blue. Gonna untap, shuffle everything back in.
And you can see Feline shuffling what appear to be 3 islands back into the deck. I mean,
Nothing
that was
helping.
And at this point, a lot of her, she may not necessarily be able to win off the spiral directly, but most of her hands will give her some number of cantrips to continue to dig. But that hand just offered nothing. And the Divining Top, fortunately for her, found another Time Spiral.
So again, Islands will be tapping for 4 blue at this point. Should be able to generate a lot of mana due to that Candelabra. And then 7 spells have been cast and 10 blue mana floating. You can see, hoping for the best off this Time Spiral, 7 brand new cards coming.
And that's the most dangerous thing about playing, or not dangerous rather, but one of the more time-consuming and frustrating things about playing against High Tide is it's not like Sneak and Show where you just die. From this position, Feline has some small percentage chance of losing the game, so you have to sit here and hope that something good happens.
Yep, got a ripped sleeve, so we'll get that changed out really quickly here, and then we'll see what these 7 cards do find for either player. A huge sweat. It's difficult for High Tide to fail at this point, but we'll find out if that's possible. Looks like the rip sleeve was a Merchant Scroll, so that's going to go back in the deck.
Well, if Feline was not able to find a Time Spiral off of that Divining Top, that could have just been it.
Absolutely.
She has some lands in her deck. She has some Flusterstorms. She has some Force of Wills. There are some dead draws. Additional copies of Candelabra and High Tide from this spot don't really do anything, so it's unlikely, but certainly still possible.
7 cards in. There's a Brainstorm. I see at least 1 Merchant Scroll. I think I see another High Tide as well. Gonna cast that. 9 mana floating. Islands will tap for 5 blue. Gonna Brainstorm. 8 mana floating. Gonna put a couple cards back very quickly. Gonna High Tide again. Down to 7 blue. Gonna Merchant Scroll.
And that should do it here.
Yeah.
I mean, Feline has enough mana here to Merchant Scroll for Blue Zenith. Or for Cunning Wish to get Blue Zenith. Yeah.
Islands are tapping for 6 blue right now. You see there's 5 blue mana floating. There's a Cunning Wish. So it'll be for a lot. You see Merriam will take the die down. 2 blue floating now. Gonna go reach in. Gonna go get Blue Sun. This is where the fun begins. There is another Merchant Scroll, so now there's no mana floating. Ross keeping track pretty well here as far as spells and mana are concerned. Yeah. That is a turnabout. I did not know that earlier. Yep, I had the same look.
Yep.
I've never seen that turnabout before. That's going to generate a whole bunch of mana. 6 and 5 is 30. Let's do it again.
Ross is drawing several hundred cards, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah, we're going to go this way. It says you can have a whole bunch of cards, or you can just pick up those 5 lands, big move to the 3rd one, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So Feline Longmore is able to tie it up between her and Ross and Merriam. High Tide and Elves going to go to a 3rd one.
Ross's draw a little on the slow side. You can see exactly why he was contemplating mulliganing that hand for so long.
We've got Robert Sullivan and Jerry Mee headed to game number 3. Death and Taxes and Bug Delver battling it out. We got Jason Ellis up a game over Chris Van Meter, Rug Delver up a game over Sneak and Show. And it looks like Betcher and Shields are still battling in game number 1. We'll head to a third one here. Again, we'll announce the winner of our premium giveaway at the conclusion of this match. This match has been fun so far. Again, just basically 2 ships passing, and I have very little interaction between the 2.
Post board that changes a bit. Ross has a lot more discard available.
Yeah. This is definitely true. And it makes you just wonder how much he diluted his deck with discard. Didn't draw any that game.
No.
But we'll see exactly how much he does change his deck. Both players are going to take a look at the deck list here, make sure they have the configurations that they're looking for. Acorn Mystic, ready, good to go. And while we do wait here, we will take a look at the newest addition to our creature collection. There is the Acorn Mystic. No Stoneforges in this match.
No.
They're on the other side of the bracket.
Right.
They might play a role in deciding the top 8 here. There you do see the play mat, the deck box, the sleeves, and of course the dice bag. And of course, whenever you do join a Legacy Open beginning next weekend in Columbus, 2 of these will be handed out to you.
And they are sweet looking. Just so adorable. Wide-eyed with just incredulous that he's allowed to search his deck right there for a batter skull and put him to play.
I believe it's a nut that he's searching for.
I guess he or she.
Yes, I believe that's a nut, not an equipment.
Well, it could be either.
I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again.
A nut's a good guess.
Probably cashew.
I don't know.
I don't know what's a squirrel's favorite nut is. Hard to say. But either way, these will be available June 13th for you guys on StarCityGames.com or any of our Open Series events. So we hope you do enjoy the new edition.
I have a guess of what that is.
Oh, please fire away.
It's probably an acorn.
You are
Sherlock Holmes at it again.
You are really something.
Probably an acorn.
I will tell you, you are probably the smartest guy I've ever met.
We are really stupid. It is really surprising sometimes.
Did someone say the match is ready? Is that what they said?
Go back to the match.
Oh wow, look at that! They are shuffling up for game number 3.
Not our most graceful promo, I will say.
I have no idea what you're talking about. We will edit that out, and we won't have much of a problem.
What you just saw did not happen.
Yeah. That's the power of editing. It's just really good. I'm not embarrassed at all.
No,
Why would I be?
The beauty of live television.
Yes, it's very nice. It certainly is. Game 3 underway here in just a moment between Longmore and Merriam. We have too much fun sometimes.
And not enough fun other times. It's about finding the balancing act,
I still think this is Merriam's to lose, especially on the play game 3.
Yeah, even in that game where Ross did nothing, you could look at his hand and he was pretty close to being able to kill Feline just with some Dryad Arbors and casting Craterhoof Behemoth. It doesn't take a lot for him to be able to go off. And supplemented by any sort of discard spell, it's not clear that Feline would have been able to win because every natural order, even from a low base, is something Feline has to care about because if it gets Gadok Teague, that's another hurdle that Feline has to jump over before she can actually go off.
Feels like a big one.
Yes.
Big hurdle to jump over. Makes you question the use of that Zenith in the early turns of the game for Merriam. Searching just for a Dryad Arbor instead of maybe holding that to get potentially get a Gadok Teague.
Well, if he had Cradle in his hand and needed mana, then you just have to start ramping. Okay. Dryad Arbor plus Cradle together is just too sweet. And that's another, I look at the Elves list, it's just so much more evolved and tighter than it used to be. A lot of that is the second copy of Dryad Arbor. For a while there, it was, you play one copy because you have some fetch lands in your deck and green's unneeded, so you play one. And over time, people realize there's just enough utility to having the second one, especially because of Gaia's Cradle. The second one goes in the deck. And the Elf list to me is the one most over the last couple of years that's improved just by people building a better machine.
Misty Rainforest is going to begin things here. Let's see if Merriam has any discard this go around. Not just the Zenith again. So he's going to search for a green source of mana, likely a Bayou. So there's that. And now the Dryad Arbor. So he's ramping. Going to pass it back to Longmore, just an island. Let's see if we're going to cast a spell on one. Didn't last game. Looks like we will this game. It's going to be a Candelabra.
Makes the setup a little bit easier. Makes it more likely that Feline can go off on the third turn, potentially.
Yep. So an untap and a draw here for Merriam. Picks up another Zenith. This is a glimpse. Will we have a counterspell? The answer looks to be no. Merriam with the follow-up. Queer and Ranger. Take a draw. Found a Wirewood Symbiote. That's not so bad. Hasn't played land yet this turn, don't forget.
And Feline did not even hesitate before letting that resolve. And there was a Force of Will in hand.
This will go searching. See if he wants a Savannah or a Bayou.
I think Savannah is the land to go get here. Gives him the ability to cast Kasali Pride Mage or Gadok Teak if he draws it.
So Merriam going to shuffle everything up here. And then we'll see some more cantripping.
And it's possible Feline has so few ways to interact with what Ross does that she has to concede things like a small glimpse because she needs to counter every natural order, Gadok Teak and Gadok Teak if it comes up.
Heritage Druid might bite the counterspell this time, just like the last game. Longmore looking at the grip right now. Merriam prepared to draw a card from casting the Heritage Druid, but do you counter or do you let it resolve? You counter it. Brainstorm, gonna take care of that along with Force of Will. She's considering maybe wanting to remove a different card here. We'll see if that's okay. Looks like it will be, so it's gonna be Cunning Wish instead of Brainstorm. Gonna untap that Dryad Arbor with the Queer and Ranger. Already played a land. Now we'll put this into play.
I'm not sure why if Feline was willing to do something to Force of Will something as innocuous as Heritage Druid when there aren't even two other elves in play, then I don't know why you wouldn't just fight over the Glimpse in the first place.
I would agree with you. Glimpse is the one providing the most advantage right now. You saw Merriam use the Wirewood Symbiote, untap the Dryad Arbor, return the Queer and Ranger, recast the Queer and Ranger, draw a card from the Glimpse trigger. Chris Van Meter ties it up against Jason Ellis. Sneak and Show versus Rug Delver going to the third game.
There's two lines that I like from Feline, which is just you stop any card that looks like it's going to allow Ross to go off, and in that world you force it with the Glimpse. There's the other world where I only have so many counter spells. Ross has a couple of cards that I can't beat, or it's going to be really hard to beat. So I have to stop something that's literally going to kill me, or something as powerful as Gadok Teak.
Yep.
But doing something in the middle of that, which is allowing Ross to draw some cards, and then stopping Heritage Druid when there isn't even two other elves in play to make 3 mana, seems inconsistent to me.
So Merriam pick up another land there to play another Queer and Ranger to draw another card. So the mana out in play, not a ton. This is going to be a Merchant Scroll. Going to go searching. I would not be surprised if this is the high tide. We'll see. It's actually just going to be a Force Will to defend herself. So going to pass the turn back over to Merriam. Not going to resolve a big spell here. Ross will shuffle up Longmore's deck in just a moment. Very defensive Merchant Scroll there.
Yeah. Although, even though she went and got Force of Will here, that could actually belie some strength. She could theoretically have a hand that's still capable of going off on the third turn and just needs to buy one more turn.
Bayou going to come in. This is an Elvish Visionary trigger. Take a draw. Merriam, beatdowns in for 3. Longmore down to 16. I think the card that Ross is really looking for here in a big way is he going to play a Deathrite Shaman? I think the card he's looking for is Cradle.
Or any discard spell.
Yeah. He's trying very hard to get through his deck very quickly. There's a Polluted Delta. That's a Brainstorm. That's okay. So 3 cards going to go to the grip. Jerry Mee wins his match over Death and Taxes. Bug Delver moving on to play the winner of Jared Betcher and Dave Shields playing Death and Taxes. We could have a Death and Taxes mirror on the other side. Me, the 1 seed. He's through. Delta going to get sacrificed. It's going to go searching for an island.
And I know that Feline here is being kind of sporting by leaving the Force of Will on the table. But now that she's brainstormed and shuffled, it's not necessarily the case that card's in her hand anymore.
I would agree. You could also make an argument that it's better to actually shuffle it away because your opponent will think that you have Force Will the entire time.
Yeah, I'm speaking more just to the general tightness of the operations here. Once you're brainstorming and shuffling, Ross does not know the contents of your hand anymore. So giving him that information, now it's likely you're keeping it there, of course, but he doesn't know that for sure.
Merriam gonna shuffle this deck, and he's gonna untap. Again, I feel as though he's looking for Cradle, or as you mentioned, a discard spell. There's a natural order.
But you got to be worried if you're Ross here because I mean, she has High Tide. She has a Force of Will. Time Spiral allows her to go off, and if the other card in her hand is a blue card, she can force your big payout and go off next turn.
Sacrifice of Verdant Catacombs will Merriam. He'll go a little bit lower. Life total doesn't matter. There's a Bayou. We know he's got a Savannah. He's going to try to Zenith right now for a 2. Will this resolve?
No, this has to be, again, it's the threat of Galactique here.
Force of Will. It's time to figure out what blue card to remove. It's not the High Tide on the table. We know that. And this, to me, seems like, okay, if she's deciding, does not have Time Spiral.
Probably not. Probably looking at a couple cantrips. Oh, there's a Flusterstorm.
So Merriam loses the opportunity to Zenith. Merriam going to take a look here with the Deathrite Shaman. Going to remove Misty Rainforest from his deck. Gonna untap. Gonna return. He's looking to generate some mana 3. There's a Zenith for 2 again.
And Ross has found out a way to generate enough mana here to go and get Galactique, and this may shut the door.
And there is Galactique. He'll take a look. Excuse me, she'll take a look, and so will we. And that's a very, very difficult card for High Tide to beat.
Now, Feline can still cantrip, and if she has, say, a snap somewhere, then it's still possible to get out. But given the fact that she already seems like she's working from a very low base of resources, this is just another issue.
Yeah, Allen's going to shuffle those away. It's time to find a bounce spell. And the other thing, too, is that it's got to be a bounce spell plus going off in the same turn.
Yes.
You know, that's the big issue.
And Snap can facilitate that, in
Of
theory.
course. Snap great with High Tide.
I suppose that... Oh, he's a Kitkin, not an elf. That is important. Can't protect it with Wirewood Symbiote. Or
True.
Fizzle Snap.
This is true.
I'm sorry that I'm messing with your tribe or whatever.
It's okay.
I know that's your...
It's okay, man. I'm over it. See, it's cool because you have that card in play and then you can't cast Spectral Procession. That's really neat. It's great interaction.
Well, in fairness, you know, again, it's not a sealed deck. They don't hand you your deck before the tournament starts. You elect to put those cards in your deck.
That's true.
And Ross, in fairness, has Green Sun Zenith alongside Galactique. So
Yes, it does.
who's the bad deck builder now?
See if Merriam wants to maybe try to cast a natural order now and get Creator of Behemoth. He certainly can work his way there. One thing that's always fun to watch a skilled Elves player, the interactions with the mana. It didn't seem like he could generate enough mana to see him twice in the same turn. You're probably thinking that if you're Longmore too. Well, I'm probably okay, but that's not the truth at all.
It's a really easy deck to play when you're just glimpsing. Ross has been doing a lot of very powerful stuff in the absence of any of his real big combo payouts.
Yep.
He just knows the operations of the Elves well enough to be able to generate a bunch of extra mana.
This is an attack for 4. Longmore's going to go down to 8. Merriam looks like he's going to start generating some mana now. One from the actual land, one from the Deathrite Shaman. The follow-up. Looks like it may just be Elvish Visionary. Again, Merriam has the non-bow of Natural Order and Green Sun Zenith along with Galactique, but Teague is so good in some matchups that having that non-bow is just fine.
Yeah, and Green Sun Zenith and Natural Order also allow you to go get that card in the first place, so you can't cut those either.
Yep. So Queer and Ranger's going to do some untapping here. That's actually going to go back to the grip. Deathrite Shaman's the one that's going to untap. Merriam using a Wirewood Symbiote to do that. Of course, you're going to do that once per turn, so that's why he turns it the other way. And just passes the turn back. This is a cantrip. Ponder.
So this needs to be something like High Tide, Snappier Galactique,
Time Spiral, maybe.
yeah, Candelabra Time Spiral or some. It's a challenging mixture of cards she needs to find right now.
And it's going to be a shuffle knowing that that's not what she's looking for. Realizes it's going to be hard. And you mentioned it right from the start. Teague is very tough for this deck to beat.
Yep.
And there are a lot of decks out there that actually have access to it, so I imagine when preparing for the tournament, you probably don't prepare for it all that much. So there's 2 High Tides and an extension of the hand. Ross Merriam's going to win this match, and his dream is still alive to go back-to-back here in Providence. Defeats Feline Longmore, playing High Tide, 2-1.
And good run for Feline here. The first top 8 in a while. A lot of top 16 so far this year in Legacy. Hasn't really broken through, but unfortunately ran into a pretty rough matchup. Again, Ross just a little bit faster, and post-board he is picking up real cards, and Feline's making sideways upgrades, if anything.
Again, another match. Van Meter Ellis, game number 3. Shroud is in the back writing that up. You see Brian Braun to win, a curious observer. Whoever wins that match will play against Ross Merriam. It would be very interesting if it was Chris Van Meter. Quite the match to watch then.
One person trying to break the streak, the other trying to set a record held by only the illustrious Jerry Thompson. A lot riding on that match potentially if we get there in the semifinals.
Yeah, and again, we are